Chaos Walking, directed by Doug Liman and starring Tom Holland, Daisy Ridley, Mads Mikkelsen, and Nick Jonas. This is based on the novel The Knife of Never Letting Go. And I'm going to preface this right off the bat. I have not read the novel. I have not, so... And from what I've read, this doesn't follow the book. And, hang on a second. Okay, that's a little better. From what I've read, I read a synopsis of the book, or like a summary of the book, after I saw the movie. This does not follow the book very much, like, at all. So, I'm just gonna keep the book, I'm gonna keep the changes out of this, because I haven't read it, and honestly, it's kind of pointless to bring up, because this movie's bad enough on its own. This movie's bad enough on its own. Yeah, this is a bad movie. You've seen the reviews, you know it's bad. And that kind of sucks, because this movie has a really intriguing premise. I mean, it doesn't make a lot of sense, because nothing is ever explained like most young adult films, because they save it for the second and third films, because there are 3 books in this series, just like most of the young adult franchises. Hunger Games, Maze Runner, Divergent, yeah, all of those have 3 books, so this one does too, and you can tell they were waiting for sequels, and I don't think a sequel to this is getting made, and for good reason. This is a box office flop, and it would have been even without the restricted theaters. So, yeah, so the main premise of this movie is that on an alien planet, there are a bunch of humans are on this alien planet, and all of the women on this planet, or at least in this one colony, I guess, all the women have been wiped out, and the men suffer from this thing called the noise, which basically is basically like a loudspeaker for your thoughts. It like plays your thoughts out loud with some kind of like red or blue mist or whatever that forms around their head, or sometimes creates images about what you're seeing. Hang on. I don't know what is up with my chair. That's better. They'll create images of what they're thinking about, or will say what they're thinking to themselves, and that alone is actually an interesting idea. I just wish it was explained. And was it explained in the book? Probably. Was it explained in the future books? More likely. So this probably would have saved it for the future films. But as is, this movie makes no sense. This plot makes no sense. It's like I said, it's an interesting idea, but not much is ever done with it. Most of the time, the noise is used for jokes half the time. Like what our main character, Todd, played by Tom Holland, is thinking, and usually it's something embarrassing or something like that. Yeah, you can probably tell this movie doesn't gel well together. This movie had massive reshoots, including pushing the film back an entire year, and that wasn't just due to theaters closing, that was due to reshoots. And it is blatantly obvious. And I can guarantee this went through a ton of rewrites, because if you look through the writing credits, you might see the author, Patrick Seeley, I believe is his name. He has a writing credit on the screenplay, so you're like, oh, this was written by the author, so it's got to be faithful to the book, right? But if you paid attention to the opening of this, it apparently doesn't follow the book, so you're like, what the hell happened? This movie was written by 7 people. 7 people. Have you ever seen a movie that was written by 7 people that was good? Probably not. But you can really tell that this was written by 7 different people, because there are a lot of subplots that don't go, or there aren't a lot of subplots, but there's like characters that end up having nothing to do. Like they set up certain aspects of these characters, but then do absolutely nothing with that, especially with Nick Jonas's character. He's the son of the mayor, played by Mads Mikkelsen, who's basically the villain of the film. He plays his son, and it's like, they set up this thing where the mayor seems to like Todd more than he likes his son. And that could have been an interesting conflict between This, I don't remember what the son's name is, but between Jonas and Holland's characters. It's never addressed after that. It's never addressed. I don't even think, outside of the first maybe 5 minutes, I don't think Jonas and Holland share a line. If they did to begin with. That's really annoying. So, yeah, characters that go absolutely nowhere. Character motivations aren't always clear. Like, I don't understand the villain's motivation in this movie. And once again, it was probably explained in the book, or was probably explained in one of the later books, but there's an issue with this that I'm going to get into in a minute. But, so he doesn't, the villain's motivations makes no sense. And keeping on to Mads Mikkelsen's character, I like Mads Mikkelsen. He's a really good actor. I'm looking forward to seeing what he does with Grindelwald in Fantastic Beasts 3. And I liked him in Rogue One. I thought he was really good as Galen Erso. So, I know this guy can do really well, and all the acting in this is done very well. This is a lot of really good actors, and I like Mikkelsen as the villain. I can buy him as an intimidating presence. But 2 problems. 1, again, is his motivation is never clear, and 2, he dies like a bitch. And that creates another problem. In the book, he doesn't die. At least not in the first one. He doesn't die. Actually, apparently, spoilers for the book here, for the book and the film here. Well, I've already spoiled the film, so who cares? All my reviews are spoiler-filled, because I don't care. The end of the book, Todd surrenders to the mayor to save Viola, Ridley's character. And that's a cool cliffhanger. That actually sounds pretty cool. I might actually go and read the books after this, but in the film, he dies in a really stupid fashion. Todd creates, these visions of his mother who Mikkelsen's character killed. And it's all these visions, I don't even know what they're doing, just, talking, and, they're calling him a coward, because you don't want them to see what you really are, a coward. There's, he's backing up, and there's a ledge behind him in a ship, and then Ridley's character and Viola just comes up and basically just hits him off with a metal stick, and he ends up falling to his death. At least I'm assuming he died. I don't know how you'd survive that, but that's not the point. So, not only does that ruin the potential for a sequel right off the bat, but again, he goes out like a bitch. It's really lame, and that's probably the best way I can describe this movie as a whole. It's lame. This movie left no impression on me whatsoever. The second the movie ended, I sat there thinking, I feel no different than I did an hour and a half ago. I feel absolutely no different. Because, take for example 2 other films that I've seen recently. Tom and Jerry and the SpongeBob Sponge on the Run. Tom and Jerry, I was furious at. I was so mad I couldn't even finish the movie. I was that angry. So that one left an impact, and SpongeBob Sponge on the Run, I finished the movie thinking, this wasn't a complete pile of trash like I thought it was going to be. How about that? This film, I went into it knowing it was probably going to suck, and that's exactly what happened, but I did not expect just how boring and generic this movie was. This left no impact on me at all. The actors try. I really like these actors. I know I've bashed on Holland's Spider-Man, but I've never bashed Holland as an actor, because I gave him a ton of praise for his performance in The Devil All the Time last year. I know Daisy Ridley's a very good actress. She was good in the Star Wars movies, even though she was given possibly the most bland protagonist in cinema history. And Nick Jonas, I've been a fan of Nick Jonas since I was a little kid. I've been listening to the Jonas Brothers for years. Even back Camp Rock, 2008, Camp Rock is the first thing I saw him in. And more I watched those, he wasn't good in those Camp Rock movies, but he is really improved. He was very good in the Jumanji movies, and he was one of the only things in the god-awful Ugly Dolls movie that was okay, because his voice performance was okay. His character was stupid, but he was okay. So, yeah, I like all these actors, but they're given nothing to work with. And something else that's wrong with this movie is the technicalities with this movie. The directing and the editing are so awful. I cannot tell you how many scenes, like, not even just in the quick cuts, especially during the action sequences, the directing, there's constant shaky cam, which I can't stand shaky cam. If you've seen some of my reviews, you know I can't stand shaky cam. And the editing is so bad because it'll cut to like a close-up, then another close-up, then another close-up, then another close-up, and then all of a sudden it's like a wide shot, and then it's a bunch of other close-ups. You can't tell what's happening. I don't know if it's more on the directing or more on the editing, but they're both awful. And the editing problems aren't even just seen in the cuts. This movie feels like it's straight up missing scenes. Not only is it missing, it's not just missing shots. Even though there are a few times where I feel like it's missing 3 or 4 shots, because characters will characters will be standing right, like, say there's this one scene where they like find this ship. They're standing in like the middle of a field, like looking up at it, and then the very next shot they're on top of the thing. I'm like, can we get some transitions here instead of just cutting to them up there? I don't know what went on in the editing. I don't know how much of this movie was cut. But it feels like they scrapped a bunch of shots to try to cut this movie down to as short as possible. And like I said, this movie feels like it's straight up missing scenes because the motivations are completely blank. The characters don't have that much of a personality to them outside of Todd, even though Todd seems like his big personality trait is just weird. I don't understand his personality. His character is kind of interesting because it's like he grew up believing everything the mayor told him, but everything the mayor told him was a lie. And I like stories like that. Stories like that can do that very well. And I like that setup here, but that's really all there is to his character. And the special effects in this movie, it's a low budget movie with, like, you can tell most of the money went to getting these actors. But yeah, I mentioned the noise effect. Sometimes it looks good and sometimes it doesn't. Like, sometimes it'll either look really fake or the vision will be so blurry you can't really tell what you're looking at. And sometimes it'll just be on the wrong person. I swear there was a couple times where Todd was like with a bunch of other people and you could hear his noise going off, but the effect was over somebody else. I swear that happened at least once or twice. So But, yeah, so there's not much redeeming in this film. But I think the acting is probably the only thing that saves this movie. I don't know what went on behind the scenes to make this movie so just bland and generic when it has such an interesting premise. This movie should have been many things, but boring and lame should not have been among them. So I went into this movie expecting it. I was expecting a generic sci-fi film with a cool premise. Instead, I got an interesting premise and a really lame movie. So, yeah, that's all I got to say for Chaos Walking. I don't know, 1.5 out of 5. It's just, yeah, I didn't like it. This was really bad. I don't anticipate watching this again. And no, there's no and. I don't anticipate watching this again. So, thank you all so much for watching. Be sure to hit that like button down below. Hit that subscribe button for more reviews. And comment down below. Tell me what you thought of Chaos Walking. Would you like to see a sequel to this? I sure as hell wouldn't. I don't know what they would do with a sequel, considering how the book ends and how the movie ends and how they're so different. But, yeah, that's all I'm going to say. I'll see you all next time. Bye.